production. Grand Iron Sheep. Imagine. Earth was one landmass, I was first. I touched on rights from birth, I'm not cursed. Still one landmass, I reach Atlantis. Fell in an abyss, now the first land split. Abyssinia, let's make sense, don't forget. Still one landmass was Kush and Kemet. Branching south and north, east and west. Some stayed the path, some straight in experiments. A few ciphered, and many deciphered. Cracking sacred generic codes, creating a hybrid. By the time we reach Asia, Nor and Asia saw Kemet fell and made the custodians Moors. You're probably asking what happened to Kush. Into Kemet is where he got pushed. Pyramids of Egypt show our greatness. Put ourselves on the wall so you can't debate this. Back on course, since I navigate carefully. Moors took the Nile back home to the Mississippi. Some took the knowledge over centuries shared with Spain. Thought they would see Northwest of Maxim again. By this time the great earthquake shifted earth plates. And Harbor say Europe is their birthplace. When we had Europe, the mountains caucus. Even scientists and politics have meetings caucus. Imagine what you thought real was fake. Imagine what you thought true was a lie. Imagine what you thought real was fake. That's chemtrails, not clouds in the sky. Imagine what you thought real was fake. Imagine what you thought true was a lie. Imagine what you thought real was fake. That's chemtrails, not clouds in the sky. A Moor is a black person, especially Negro. Claim Jesus, son of God, under a steeple. Moors are Moabites, so was Ruth. Jesus' great-great-grandmother is Ruth. Jesus is a Moabite too, so he was a Moor. Circle 7 was the 5 fish and 2 bread they saw. Buddha is a mind state caused by the mudra. Kali Yuga is the magic of the Kama Sutra. Spirit mother, black sons of God and man. Our niggas on the block with the Glock in hand. Niggas are the Nagas of Angkor Wat. When we lived abundant with bank or not. Here is where we enter new evidence of how the Satan rules, creating current events. Broke the Albion, were the creators. Even scientists that look just like us lost their pigmentation, didn't lose the knowledge. Infiltrated the hybrid seed to abolish. It's all in your blood, many watch faces and skin color. Misnomers classify races. A few learned a lesson, many chose to stay. The rest are just pawns in this global game of commerce. They reverse, we are verse. Fake Adams that stole the lessons get you Ali cursed. Imagine what you thought real was fake. Imagine what you thought true was a lie. Imagine what you thought high was low. Imagine what you thought fast was. Imagine what you thought real was fake. Imagine what you thought true was a lie. Imagine what you thought high was low. Imagine what you thought fast was. Put it all together, I have more as science. You have blind faith in the story of tyrants. See my fairs on me and call me a shrine. Or when it's tassel is tapped down, I'm flowing like mine are. Hiding in a lodge called Arabic names. Unabridged definition of Arab is my claim. When you say a white man did it, you mean yourself to the ethers. And nations know you don't know yourself and keep us in subjugation. Always retaliation against the wrong enemy and got the wrong remedy. Pulse racing from false education, appearing real with no qualification. You took your knowledge and now you act like a pagan. Worshipping men and rabbits egg laying. It's crazy, will only faze me if I'm lazy. Stay focused on the youth and maybe monkey wrench the plan with thought power. Time is an illusion, Babylon is down in short hours. If Zion is like the Matrix, it's going down too. Agents against Ra get backed in corners like coons. Swing and miss, knock down all your wickets. Rapping words, speaking pro, say I hear crickets. Screw face your brother, but watch the judges faceless. You created them, and now you're nationless. Imagine what you thought real was fake. Imagine what you thought true was a lie. Imagine what you thought high was low. Imagine what you thought fast was. First creation and fall of man. Education of Mary and Liz and Zoan. The unity of life, Elihu's lesson. Death is a ministry. In Manetho's lesson, after the feast we build with carpenter's tools on the life of Yahshua in the Muslim schools until Hamas explain the meaning of truth. Yahshua reveals sinful ways when they stray from rules. At the feast in Bahar taught equality, and that between Allah and man is unity. Like Yahshua and Barada, we read scrolls sacred, using eternal happiness to clothe the naked. In Egypt, among Gentiles, tremendous works. Defeat the 3 temptations to examine your worth. Washing your hands, can't clean karmic dirt. Lying disciples didn't steal the body and spirit. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, justice doesn't go from the monks Tibetan. As Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circle 7. Holy instructions and warnings to all young men. Marriage instructions, even duties of a husband. Holy instructions for children toward their mom and father's obedience. Holy covenant of nations Asiatic. Holy unity of rich and poor is in the attic. Master servant duty shall become a pleasure. Social duties by the prophet, Allah's treasure. Justice, charity, gratitude, sincere religion. Know thyself, inhale the breath of heaven. Speak the soul of man, reach the wisdom pinnacle. The instability of man is no miracle. In constant weakness, cause knowledge is insufficient. Lower self has the higher self in submission. Inconstancy and weakness, it cause misery. Origin of Asiatic, start of Christianity. After we left the capital and fulfill prophecy. Fallen sons of daughters, no hate, start loving me, your prophet. Without a rocket, meet you on the soul plane. Higher than Siphon, 7 lines of cocaine. You won't have to do that to hear me speak. Open your heart to the Most High, bump into a sheep. Fez might be red, black, or blue. He might teach you about Bohemian Grove or Olokun. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, justice doesn't go from the monks Tibetan. As Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circle 7. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren, justice doesn't go from the monks Tibetan. As Aquarian Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circles.
Happy holiday, Moors. Get back in.
Now let me explain what's going on. Break it down. Come on. They got hundreds of Moors going to jail every month. All over the country. Hundreds of them.
But why are they putting them in jail?
They put them in jail because they're signing all these damn documents and they're doing all this stuff. You see what I'm saying? And they got so much criminal activity that went on under the documents and all this stuff. And you understand what I'm saying? So whenever you confront it with it and you go to court, you see what I'm saying? It's no different than the doings of a criminal organization. And they locking them up. They're locking them up left and right. Don't sign nothing. And if you did, you can neutralize it. Say spirit neutralize. I didn't know. But get out of that, because when you sign those things, you're signing up to a terrorist organization as of March 2009. Listen to what I'm saying. When they arrested them boys, they tried to do it in the 70s with the El Rookins and the Blackstone Rangers.
I didn't try to do it. They did it. Why did they do it? To the El Rookins and Jeff Fort and all that. How come? Oh, matter of fact, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I ain't coming up that way. So, the play is to always have you think that the criminal things you see that involves Moors, that you look at every Moor like that. So they bring up El Rukns and Jeff Fort. Why are they bringing them up? They're bringing them up to try to tie the whole criminal activity, because they're going with the narrative of the modern foreigner European colonists that they were trying to blow up something. And they weren't gangbangers that converted to more science and realized that this is what's going to save us. It's not going to be murdering each other in the street that's going to save us. It's going to be us unifying. It's going to be us stop calling ourselves gang stuff and call ourselves Moors. And all the gang headquarters, we're going to turn to Moor science temples. And everybody's going to start dressing like this. And everybody's going to start wearing this. And if you're not down with that, we will remove you. What they do? Trump up some activity between El Rukns and Gaddafi and say that they're terrorists because, Gaddafi's U.S. enemy. And El Rukn, U.S. enemy. And they're terrorists because they're trying to do something to the United States government, because the United States government is, and when there's no such thing as United States government that these people could be doing terrorist acts against. Nothing whatsoever called United States government. So who are these imposters that are posing like they're your government? And then how come you're riding with them? You're not riding with the people who are trying to free you from them, which is why they went to go meet with Gaddafi. And which is why Nation of Islam went to meet with Gaddafi. But then Jeff Fort didn't get the finance. El Rukns, Chief Malik didn't get the finance from Gaddafi. And Chief Malik is in Supermax prison right now. Dead right now. Crippled right now. Out of circulation right now. But Nation of Islam, who actually got the finance from Gaddafi, they actually got the finance from Gaddafi. They're still out here, chilling, as if nothing happened. As if they never got finance from Gaddafi, who's supposed to be a terrorist guy, that they trumped up charges on Jeff Fort and have. So how come they're not doing the same stuff to these people who actually got the finance from Gaddafi? And these people got some nerve to talk about Moors as terrorists. Make it look like it's the Moors who are the traders that sold our people into slavery. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Moors. Everybody's been lying to us. It's actually the Negro, black, colored, African, whoever's that sold us out. And the Indians. All those fake Aboriginal people who call themselves black Indians and call themselves from all these different tribes. And then every history book is going to tell you that every European that came to this land had to know Arabic to talk with the people here. Why do they have to know Arabic? Why are they coming to America and they have to know Arabic? Why? Why is the Native American population so important, but in order to found U.S, they had to go to Morocco? They didn't go to the indigenous people? How come they didn't go to the indigenous people? How come when the United States said, yeah, we want to be a country, they didn't write a letter to the Cherokee or the Chippewa or the Choctaw or whoever in order for them to be somebody? If the Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native tribe, whoever's Bureau of Indian Affairs people, the copper-colored natives and all that, that's been here. You realize they're playing you? You still don't get it yet? Nothing else matters. Everything that they do is to divert your attention from knowing about your Moorish history. I don't care what they do. Say something they did. Just divert you from your Moorish nationality. How? They have nothing to do with that. Are they a modern European or are they Asiatic? If they're a modern European, then they should be in Europe doing whatever it is that they're doing. Why are they doing it in America? Just like you don't see them in China doing stuff, unless Chinese say, yeah, you could come here and do stuff. You don't see them in any other nation. The only people who they could do that to are their wards, the people who volunteer to be their servants and their slaves. The people who volunteer. So you volunteered to be a slave. But the reason why you volunteered to be a slave, because nobody told you about your Moorish nationality and birthrights. Because if they told you about that, you definitely wouldn't pick slave over being a free Moor. Why would you pick being a slave if you have an option to be free? They never gave you an option. And now you're suffering with the choice that you made. And we're trying to tell you, well, proclaim your nationality, you know what I mean, so you can get out the quicksand. Well, what benefit is it for me to proclaim my nationality? Because, I was watching this thing and it was saying, you understand you're in quicksand right now? You're sinking. You're in quicksand and sinking. I'm out the quicksand. You're in the quicksand. And I'm telling you, you grab this stick, so you pull your... What's the benefit of me grabbing the stick? Because some guys over there in quicksand, they're talking about the Moors are terrorists, and we're not Moors. We're Aboriginal and Indigenous. We're the indigenous Aboriginals of this land. When you go to weird Maryland by Matthew Lake, he asks a question. So who are the Moors and how did they come to settle on the Delmarva Peninsula? And just look up Delmarva Peninsula. You see where that is. When asked this question by researchers, the Moors' typical response was one of three amazing legends. And every time they talk about legends, they're talking about your ancient foremothers and forefathers. The first legend of the Moors' origins, as found in the article The Moors of Delaware, a look at a triracial group, author unknown, is that the Moors originated sometime before the Revolutionary War through the founding of a colony along the Delmarva Peninsula by a group of dark-skinned Spanish Moors. through intermarriage with the local Indians come the people called Moors. Right, the local Indians. Keep in mind that this is not India. India is in Asia. India is not in America. So anybody telling you about Indians over here, they're lying. So if they weren't Indians, who were these people that the Spanish Moors, through intermarriage, connected with? Because all we know is they were here before the Revolutionary War. We don't know when, but we know they were here before the Revolutionary War, and then they connected with the local Indians. There's no local Indians. Indians are fiction. Indians are fiction. As soon as they say it, know that they're lying. Because this is not India over here. And that's not India over there. That's Hindustan. And India is because of indigo, because these people look like indigo. And anybody who looks like indigo, they're a Moor. Because Moor means any dark-skinned person. And indigo is dark. It's very basic. It doesn't take trigonometry to figure this stuff out. Let us continue on with the legends. The legend has some historical support in that it is known that Sir Francis Drake had several hundred Muslims from Morocco and the Ottoman Empire on board when he stopped for a few months in Roanoke, Virginia. These Moors could have mingled with the Native Americans in Virginia and eventually made their way to Delaware and New Jersey, if not in person, then in offspring. So the Moors from the Delmarva Peninsula, they connected with Indians, and then the Muslims from Morocco and the Ottoman Empire, the Moors could have mingled with Native Americans. So does that mean Native Americans and Indians are two different things? And then if we realize that, hold on a second, well, a native of America would more than likely be a dark-skinned person, considering that all the natives of everywhere else on the planet are dark-skinned people. But then, if Native Americans are Aboriginal and Indians are Aboriginal, then why not just call them Aboriginal? Why are you making up all this different stuff? Just like they said right there, it said the Moors came and met the Indians, and then the Moors came and met the Native Americans. Why they switch them but they didn't switch the Moors? And like we said, if guys coming from Turkey to America and talking Turkish to the Native American, what does that tell you? That's probably not a Native American, he's probably Turkish. But then how's he Turkish if Turkey is over there? Well, because the world was one landmass. So why wouldn't there be Turkish-speaking people in America? If all of it was one landmass. Why wouldn't there be Australian-speaking people in Europe? It's one landmass. And we already know that we travel. You already know Moors can't stay still. Everybody got ADHD if they got melanin. Can't even keep moving right now. Can't even keep your ass still. So you know we moved. So the fiction is all these other names. Because they all know that dark-skinned people are Moors. The world knows this. The only people who are in the mental block is the people in North America and the islands. And now we found out the UK, because they're dumb over there too. And they got Moors over there trying to tell them that they're Moors over there, and they're debating them. They're debating Moors near the UK. Black guys. Same thing like over here. Same thing like you go to islands. There's Moors right now in Jamaica right now who Maroons are trying to convince them, you're not Moors, come be Maroons, and then we're going to give you the stuff as a Moor. What? Why you Maroons get on the Moorish side, everybody proclaim their nationality, start saying that you're Moors. How about that? Oh no, you're not going to go there. You want to do your Maroon slave stuff, slave catcher guys. All right, do your thing. Do your thing. Because all the property is going to go back to the government one day. They'll keep playing around. The brands is what kills us. And the individual that's using the brands to kill us is your own brother and sister. Because they don't want to tell you that you're Moors. They want to convince you that you're everything else. A story is also told of an expedition of Charles II to Tangiers in North Africa. When this expedition disbanded in 1684, right? 1684, right? When this expedition disbanded in 1684, the crew, who were Moors, set sail for America. They supposedly arrived on an island in the Chesapeake Bay. How is Moors landing in a place called Bay? Oh yeah, we're just fighting in Tangiers, and we're just gonna disband and go to the Americas. Really? Why didn't they go to North Africa? Why didn't they go to Egypt? Why didn't they go to Sudan or something? Why are they going all across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas to disband after the expedition with Charles II? Why didn't they go back where Charles II brought them from? No, isn't this weird? This is weird. Like, why would Europeans who in 1400s already knew that there were people here start bringing people from over there all the way over here to work when there's people here already that they could just use the people here? You got millions of people here when the European came here. Why don't you just enslave the people here? They're bringing some guy across the Atlantic Ocean for. You got people here, you just enslave them. The mighty Europeans, you know, you're not going to do anything to people here. You go all the way across over there. Right? These Tanzanians or Tangerians, these Tangerians left the continent of Africa They're disbanding. So that means we're not going to see each other again. You know what I mean? You know, hugs and all that stuff. And then they didn't go North Africa, South Africa, East, West Africa, Asia, nothing like that. They went across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. And then I guess when they got here, then they got put on the plantation because they came over here on a slave ship, right? That's how they got over here. Remember, this is 1684. At the same time, it's supposed to be doing some slavery stuff with some black guys. Did they pass them when they were bringing the slave ships or whatever? Did they pass the Moors? Because 1684, right? The 400 years of slavery was 416, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, 2000s. Okay, so around this time is when they say they got taken from somewhere. So how is it that they're getting taken from somewhere when something's not right here? Then you start thinking. You see all these people are telling you to your face. You don't hear what the Moors are saying. Fine, listen to these people then. You don't hear what we're saying. The second origin. So all that was the first origin story. We didn't even get anywhere yet. And all they've been talking about is Moors. All they've been talking about is Moors, Europeans, and Native Americans and Indians. And they're using Native Americans and Indians interchangeably. But these other people who are engaging these Europeans and these Native Americans, they just call them Moors. They do have 50 different names. There are no synonyms for them. They're just Moors. Please. The second origin legend is that the Moors are descendants of Spanish or Moorish pirates who came ashore and intermarried with the Nanticoke and Lenape people in this area. How is it? Okay, so let's get this straight. Okay, so the first legend was Native Americans and Moors and Europeans. All right. The second origin legend is that some descendants of Spanish or Moorish pirates came ashore and intermixed with the Nanticoke and the Lenape. Now, if they intermixed with the Nanticoke and the Lenape, were they Native Americans or Indians? Or were they none of those? Were these ones Lenape and Nanticoke? Were they also North Americans or were they Native Americans? Or how come you calling them something different? But the same people that these guys are engaging are the Moors. Yeah, there's no 50 different names for them, just the Moors. This story is more likely than the first because of the well-documented history of piracy around the shores of the area during the golden age of piracy, 1660 to 1720. Hold on a second. 1660, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, 2000s. Okay, so that's 400 years of slavery. Okay, so hold on a second. So how is it that they're bringing people across the Atlantic Ocean as slaves when they were involved in the golden age of piracy where they couldn't even go in the water because of the Moors? Oh, you're still not getting what's going on here. All right, let's carry on. The last story is a romantic legend where a beautiful, wealthy woman who was either Spanish or Irish bought a male slave who was a Moor. They fell in love and had children of Moorish complexion. C.A. Westlager found some evidence of a wealthy Irish widow living in the Cheswold of Delaware, Moor country, but nothing definitive. So, the third story, the third legend of how these people happen to just show up over here. And these people aren't the Lenape, they're not the Nanticoke, they're not the Native Americans, and they're not the Indians. But they just find themselves in America disbanding from stuff, and they just come back to America and just chilling. But there's piracy going on, so if they got piracy going on, and they're the ones running the piracy, then obviously they can go anywhere they want. Obviously nobody's telling them they can't go somewhere. Where does the Europeans have all this power? Where do they get all this power from? Oh yeah, from your nigger leaders. Keep calling you black and calling you all the fictions. Just like all the sellout Native American leaders, where all these Native Americans have to be incompetent if they're sitting there and the European as the native chief and they're not saying anything. They're just sitting there. Oh yeah, that's our chief. Chief White Owl. Chief White Owl is our chief, and he's looking like a European. And then he's got bends and all that stuff, and all they keep doing is digging up indigenous people's bodies. No, we found a grave site of indigenous people that died in the 1600s. We thought that this didn't happen. Oh, we found another grave site, people about the 1800s. Yeah. Oh, we did a satellite, and then there's indigenous grave sites all over this area. Still asleep? Okay, still asleep, I guess. Still asleep. Turks, Moors, and Moriscos. Knowledge begins with correct usage of terminology. It is impossible to evaluate accurately the historical references to Turks and Moors in the records of Drake's, Sir Francis Drake, who we just talked about, right? Liberated galley slaves, without clarifying what these terms meant in the 16th century. Oh, 16th century is the same time when these modern Europeans were in servitude to the Moors. They were enslaved to the Moors. Why are they enslaved to the Moors? So, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century. Okay, so that's 400 years of slavery. Both words had broad and narrow usages, so it is necessary to keep all possible meanings in mind. Most contemporary historians who have written on Drake's liberated galley slaves have treated the word Moor too narrowly. as exclusively referring to North African Moors, without including Moriscos, the former Moors of Spain and Portugal. Failure to understand the broader implications of the word Moors has often rendered the historical narrative confusing and not truly reflective of the potentially very diverse origins of the groups involved. Right? And this is Turks, Moors, and Moriscos in early America. Sir Francis Drake's liberated galley slaves and the lost colony of Roanoke. Umar Farouk Abdallah, PhD. PhD. Y'all think Moors don't know what we're talking about. We don't know what we're talking about. Maybe you'll listen to him.
The white man can't invent nothing. A savage can't invent nothing. All that shit came out of Egypt. So the Tarot lines up with the Kabbalah. So obviously Tarot, if they say the Tarot came out of Egypt or Atlantis, you know the Kabbalah came out of that because I showed you that on the temple walls. Later on, they stripped down the Tarot cards and made it into playing cards. So your playing cards came from your Tarot cards. You got a king, a queen, and the duke, and you know whatever the ones in there. Anyway, whatever you had and stuff that used to be Tarot, they stripped them down and made them into playing cards. So your playing cards are magical too, whereas a motherfucker get hooked on gambling and shit because he's dealing with energy. He's dealing with magical shit. Because it used to be the Tarot cards. You see what I'm saying? And they stripped that down and made it playing cards. You see what I'm saying? But I don't even think they stripped it down. I think the damn Moors stripped the shit down. And made it playing cards for recreation and all of that type of thing. But it originally came from the Tarot cards. And all that was brought up into Spain by the Moors. Brought up into Spain by the Moors also too. The Moors were also throughout the entire world. You see what I'm saying? You know, Morocco, you got that named after the Moors, you know. They talk about the Moors. The Moors were also throughout the entire world. Came from the Tarot cards. And all that was brought up into Spain by the Moors. Brought up into Spain by the Moors also too. The Moors were also throughout the entire world.
What y'all gonna say? This is your metaphysical master teacher telling you. The Moors were all throughout the world. Do you know what the world means? So anyone telling you BS about Moors and they start pointing to North Africa and stuff like that, just remember Hemmit told them that the Moors are worldwide. And do you really think Hemmit is talking about these Moors? You think Hemmit's talking about these Moors?
Jet forward, he signed the thing with Gaddafi. But we weren't into the conscious organizations yet, so it fell by the wayside. So they had to do it again. So they was already doing it when they got those boys. It's now an official terrorist organization. And they got all these, that new Black Panther Party and all them. Yes. These are now official. You got to come out of these groups. I'm telling you.
It's about the redemption of your own soul.
Listen to no God but yourself. And the spirit.
Nobody already told you that Allah and man are one. What's he telling you? He tell you that same stuff that Hemmit just said? If nobody already said, know your higher self. Know your lower self. Did he tell you that man and God are one? Did he say your higher self? He didn't say the Most High's higher self, your higher self. Isn't your higher self a reflection of the Creator? So, he's talking about specific Moors. When they're trying to show you a Moor doing some BS and they get caught up, that's the only reason that they're going to get caught up. The only other reason that they're going to get caught up is if it's an operation against that Moor because of whatever activity that Moor is doing where they live. So they become public enemy number one to these people. And they get attacked. Right? There's no need for these Europeans to be bothering Moors. There's no need, unless Moors doing some BS. Or unless that Moor is very active where they live and they're public enemy number one to the corporate state. Whatever corporate jurisdiction that fell on them while they're in their own land.
Spirit will tell you what you need with these groups and all these Moors.
Oh yeah, and him telling you about not being part of groups. Moore's been telling you that because we're a nation. So it's not about groups and organizations and associations, and it's not about that. We're a nation. As soon as they start doing the group belonging to something other than your nation, you're off the mark. And you're going to end up in the clutches of the people who Hemmit's warning you about right now. Remember, this is not a blanket thing about Moors, because we know Hemmit knows about Moors. How do we know that he supports the Moors? Oh, let's just go to his lecture right here. Let's see how much negative stuff he says about the Moors.
You see what I'm saying? You know, Morocco, you got that named after the Moors. You know, they talk about the Moors in Greece. There's not a culture that don't talk about the Moors. You see what I'm saying? Even in Russia, that's where you get Beethoven was the Moor of wherever he was, whatever. They call him the Black Moor or whatever type thing and all. And the particular, so Gurdjieff that you talk about and all, he was also a beneficiary of certain Moorish teaching in Russia, as well as Blavatsky. It was taught by certain people, masters, those were Moors and stuff, and different things like that also too. They were taught by Moors. They'll put piggyback and say Sufi. That means Moors and stuff like that, woolly-haired ones and stuff like that. So just about everything that we talk about came out of that. So Moors in America, you got the Washita tribe, you got all this stuff here in America, and then like I said before, the Mormons. That's Mormon. That's John Smith of Utah set up the Mormons and stuff based on Moorish teachings. They just stole it from them when they just turned around and made the black man evil in the actual Book of Mormons. But the book...
The Mormons are really Europeans who saw what the Moors were doing and then jacked their stuff. And no one touches them. And they do whatever they want in their little jurisdiction. And they got a little cart buggy and all that stuff, horse pulling the stuff and all that stuff, because they're about being the Moors. The Moors want to, race Maseratis or whatever, then we'll be over here in the garden with the horses. We'll be here in the garden. And they call themselves Moormen. And then you missed it because you're not even, you're so far gone. You don't even know how far gone you're gone. That's the scary part. You actually don't know that you're in the pod. Neil woke up. You're still in the pod. You didn't even get the opportunity to pick a pill because you're so out of the loop. You didn't even get an opportunity. How much time ancestors going to send you messages for you to realize that it's time to get on this Moorish information? What messages? How much trucks with a 7 on it have to pass you before you realize that ancestors talking to you? And in the most unexpected places, 7 just looking at you. Hey, how you doing? Just here to remind you, go study about your Moorish history. Why do you keep seeing 7s? Just like Jamal. What is this black? What is this Moor thing? Call me Moor. I hate this word. This word is getting despicable. And call me a Moor. What is this? Don't call me a Moor. I'm a black guy. Lost in the soup. The thing that you dropped in the soup that shouldn't have fell in there. That's what you are. Lost in the soup.
Moors is Moorish teaching, which they talk about the Christ thing, which means in actuality the Christ thing was in actuality transcend just Christianity, because you know that whole deal and all that. Elizabeth Clare Prophet, her teachings was based on leftover Moorish teachings in America. Her husband Mark Prophet started the society, and based on the teachings, as a matter of fact, they had an ascended master that they call El Mori. They also talk about Saint Germain. Anytime you hear Saint Germain is a black man, number one, and Saint Germain was a Moor. Saint Germain was actually a Moor.
Oh, yeah, black man, Saint Germain. Well, he was a Moor. Actually, yeah, Saint Germain's actually a Moor. He's actually not a black guy. Even though I just said black guy. And I know you know I said black guy. He's actually a Moor. You hear any terrorist stuff being brought up? Or you hear him speaking highly of the Moors? You hear him speaking like these Moor hater trolls that we have on our stuff? Talking about SPLC every time they bring up Moors? FBI every time they bring up Moors? How come they're not telling you this stuff about Moors? How come they didn't make a video about this stuff that Bobby Hemmitt's talking about with regard to the Moors? Why they use the dumb stuff? Him talking crazy. And then he's only talking crazy about certain jackasses in the Moorish movement who are traitors and sellouts. But they're going to parade around as Moors, knowing damn well that they're causing confusion. They know what they're doing. So we go on their platform and we cuss them out on their platform. Because we know what you're doing. Right? And you want to play receipts and all that stuff. These people are really vaccinating people, and they're really, in a campaign. How about you people on a campaign to not tell our people that they're Moors? How about that campaign? How about that campaign? Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 4. In the name of Allah and all this. Same club stuff that Bobby Hemmitt's telling you about. Stop playing games. But they're not going to stop. So we're telling you, stop being played. Everybody knows about your nationality and birthrights but you. All of them know about your nationality and birthrights but you. All of them know. The Frez, as Brother Muhammad wished to call it, is a story about a hat that was created as a result of a chance encounter that took place between Dr. Zaya Hassan and Dr. Shakila Hassan at the dinner table of Brother Elijah Muhammad and Sister Clara Muhammad. He wore the fez on regular and special occasions while meeting and greeting dignitaries, local, national, and international leaders and visitors. Oh, but nah, you're not going to ride with Moors, even though Elijah Muhammad has a star-embezzled fez worth 500 grand. And they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to talk about the fez wrapped in the turban that Farrakhan got from Imam leader guy. And you're not seeing all this stuff as signals. They're letting you know. They know. So they made their bet. If they decide to sell out after they know, then that's on them. That's the road they chose, because they knew better. So whatever judgment they're getting, because they didn't acknowledge the prophethood and stick to the program, that's on them. But I know for a fact that they know. If they got diamond out fez, they know something. If they got crescent and star, they know something. Not black guy group. They know something. Something's going on. And they're not telling. And why can't they tell? Because they don't want to give the honors to Noble Drew Ali. Keep him buried. No honors for the Prophet. Everybody else get honors to the high heavens. Noble Drew Ali, don't even bring him up. While everybody knows. And they're keeping you in the dark. And you're letting them. Because you know these people sold you out. They had to have sold you out if we're in the condition that we're in. Because they're the ones that had the keys. What do you mean cars crashed, you got the keys, and yeah, well, you know, let's go to the European and get reparations because of the stuff that they did to us. They did all this stuff to us, and what are you talking about? Stuff happening to you? I thought we were talking about the crash car. Aren't we supposed to be talking about the crash car and how the car got crashed? And the guy over there with the keys that looks just like you? And then he's kicking out dents or whatever. You're telling this European about getting some reparations? And he got a little hammer. Hammering out all the dents. And you're standing there like a dumbass. Talking about some European. And then Europeans taking your finance that he's raping from you and giving it to him to kick out the dents. Keep playing. You're playing yourself like Jeru said. Here's the countdown. You already know how they do. Peace and love to all the Moors. Happy Holy Day. Honors to all the mothers. Honors to all the Moors worldwide. Honors to you for knowing that you're Moors. Honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Peace and love to all Moors. Islam.